Hey guys, this video is going to be about what happens when you go from the word man to the word human. Yes, when you go from the word man to the word or the modern word human. Okay? This is the curse of not following the Most High. And it's not just Jacob. Esau, Syria, Shem, even the Hamites. But the Negroes of Shem are going to suffer the most because their lands have been taken thousands of years ago, or hundreds of thousands, really 100 years ago. Okay, so let's get to the Bible first, or this, Genesis. All right. Oh yeah, and just to make a comment, I recommend using eSword. I mean, you can use other Bibles, if they're not certain definitions, but eSword, this is a superpower right here. You'll be able to get anyone in conversations or debates with eSword. Anyone. But so we're gonna go to verse Genesis 1. So the creation of the world, right? Right? In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, right? All the way down to Genesis 2:6. When you read the entire verse, what you have to understand, this is not necessarily the Most High talking. This is another being. The word God is talking about many gods, even though there's only one supreme God, the Almighty, the Creator, right? But this is not referring to the Almighty. So we get to Genesis 1:6. And God said, let us make man in our image, right? After our likeness, right? After our likeness, right? However, this is not talking about us. Genesis 2 is talking about us. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils breath of life. And man became a living soul. What does man translate to? H120, Adam, ruddy. H119, ruddy, red, brown, right? So, I'm going to show you why this is important. So, right, when we go back to, when you type in the word man, etymology, right? Go to where is what? Oh, there it is. And then you type human etymology. Man, a featherless, no hair or fur, plantigrade, right? Plantigrade, which means your feet. Let me Google it for you guys. I know what it means. I just, walking this entire sole of the foot, including the toes, midfoot, heel, like what we have humans, right? Biped, walking upright, mammal, person that produces milk, of the genus, and then it's also warm-blooded, right? Of the genus Homo, Old English man, human being, person. When you go to the Eastwood version, all it states is that it's a human being, right? So let's get back. All right. Now we go to human. Human, from Old French, humane, inhumane, of or belonging to man, subspecies of man, which means man is the ancestor. Remember, what do we call ourselves today? We call ourselves Homo sapien, which is an ape, right? An ape. A primate. Let's do Homo sapien etymology. Homo comes from the Latin homo, meaning human being or man. So Homo is referring to the man. Right? It also traces back to older roots, meaning earth or earthling. Well, let's go back to eSword. We're going to go to Genesis 1. We're going to go to this translation of earth. Eretz, from unused properly means firm, the earth, right? So, and then I want to go to the other translation of the earth. Let me go to the other one. Here it is. Eretz again. Okay, both translations are the same. All right. I just don't understand why, how does homo relate to earth? I understand. But comes from the Latin participle sapiens, right? Sapiens comes from the Latin participle sapiens, which means wise, intelligent, or knowing. Right? So homo is saying it's referring to any like ape or primate. But it categorizes when it comes from the Latin word homo, meaning human being or man. So it's saying that man is the ancestor of all apes because it's a sapien, it's wise, intelligent, right? That's how I see it, right? So basically what I'm saying, homo sapien, we're not homo sapiens. We're of the man. Some of us might be of homo sapien, but we're of man. Now, we're going to type, who is considered a modern human? A modern human is a member of the single living species Homo sapiens. Okay? Defined by a high vaulted scale, a flat forehead, and a lighter skeletal build compared to archaic humans. They first evolved in Africa roughly 300 years ago. Right? So, now we're going to type, we have to say this because it's not being founded, but how much percent of modern humans have how much percent of Neanderthal do modern humans have? It says modern humans outside of Africa care about 1-2% and up to 4% in some individuals Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. People with sub-Saharan African ancestry typically have lower amounts. Overall, about 20% of the total Neanderthal genome survived scattered across modern human populations today. Now, this is the AI overview definition. We're gonna read this too. Breakdown by region. Europe and Asia. People with European or Asian backgrounds average about 1% to 2% Neanderthal DNA. East Asia. East Asian populations often show a slightly higher percentage than European populations. Africa. Individuals from sub-Saharan African populations typically have little to no Neanderthal DNA because their ancestors did not migrate into the regions where interbreeding with Neanderthals originally occurred, from medlineplus.gov. And why we have it? Modern humans, Homo sapiens, made it with Neanderthals roughly 40,000 to 50,000 years ago after migrating out of Africa. Trait impact. Some inherited Neanderthal gene variants influence immune response, skin and hair traits, and metabolism. All right, so let's get to what a Neanderthal is, right? What is a Neanderthal? We gotta type that. What is a Neanderthal? Neanderthals are an extinct species of human. See how it's going back to human again? Who were our closest ancient relatives. They lived in Europe and Asia from about 400,000 years ago until they were extinct around 40,000 years ago. Physical traits in life. Body shape. They were short, very strong, with wide chests to keep warm in cold weather. Face. They had big noses, large brow ridges above their eyes, and no real chins. Brains. They had large brains, similar in size to ours, from Natural History Museum. Behavior and skills. Tools and fire. They made advanced stone tools and controlled fire. Survival. They were skilled hunters who lived through harsh ice ages. Culture. They made art, used jewelry, and buried their dead, from Natural History Museum. Connection to modern humans. Interbreeding. When early modern Homo sapiens moved into areas where Neanderthals lived, the two groups made it. DNA today. people alive today whose families come from outside Africa still carry about 2% of Neanderthal DNA in their genes. All right, let's break all this down, and we're going to type one more. Neanderthal etymology. All right. The word Neanderthal comes from the Neander Valley in Germany. The German word Tal, valley, in the 17th century theologian Joachim Neander, the geographic and personal roots. Neander Valley, the location near Dusseldorf, Germany, where the first recognized fossils were found in 1856. Tal, the old and modern German words for valley. Joachim Neander. The valley was named after this German pastor and writer whose actual family name was New Man. The Greek connection, Grecization. Joachim's grandfather translated the German surname Newman, meaning new man, into the ancient Greek neos, new, plus aner, man, yielding Neander. Scientific suffix. Geologist William King added the Latin suffix "ensis" belonging to create the binomial nomenclature Homo neanderthalis, meaning man from the Neander Valley. Would you like to know about? Okay, now let's break down everything we just read from this part. So let's start off with this word. So Neanderthals are an extinct species of human. We already learned what a human is. A human, right? Of belonging to man. And we already know what Homo sapien is. Homo sapien, basically Homo, the man being the ancestor, right? Man being the ancestor, and sapiens, wise, right? So basically, where is it? Basically, Neanderthals are an extinct species of human. They're not human. Well, yeah, they are human, but they're not of man. They're not man. Okay. Who were our closest relatives? Who were our closest ancient relatives? Right. They lived in Europe and Asia from about 400 years ago until they were extinct around 40,000 years ago. So when we go to Esword, we already learned that there was a different type of person creating the world. And God, meaning God, this is not God. This is something else. So Genesis 1:26, and God said, "Let us make man in our." That is not. This creation is not talking about us. This is talking about something else. After our likeness, right? It's not talking about us. I just want to make sure I understand that. Okay. So that's why when they say that humans lived in Europe and Asia 400,000 years ago, that's dealing with this part, because we've only been here since the time of Adam and Eve, right? So I hope you guys understand that when they're talking about anything over 50,000, 400,000, that's not talking about us. That's talking about Genesis 1:26. We are Genesis 2:11. Yeah, Genesis 2:7. We are Genesis 2:7. Okay, now we get to the next part. Connection to modern humans. Interbreeding. When early modern humans, Homo sapiens, moved into areas where Neanderthals live, the two groups mated. DNA today, people alive today whose families come from outside Africa still carry about 2% of Neanderthal DNA in their genes. So let's read this. When early humans, Homo sapiens, moved into the areas where Neanderthals live, the two groups mated. Right? So we're going to ask, what is considered an early Homo sapien group? So now, an early Homo sapien group refers to anatomically modern humans or archaic human populations from roughly 300 years ago. Best represented by fossils found like Jebel Erhu remains in Morocco and Homo sapiens adultu in Ethiopia. So let's get to Jebel Irhoud. Right, so when we type that in, who does it show? Shows a Neanderthal who looks sort of Negro. Right, they're showing some type of ape species that looks black or Negro. Now let's get this fat out the way. How much percentage do sub-Saharan Africans of Neanderthal DNA carry? Sub-Saharan Africans carry about 0.3% to 0.5%. Okay, and in some cases say that they have none, right? Which makes them what different from a human, right? It's just they're not gonna say it like that. But Jebel Irhoud, right? What was the Jebel Irhoud fossil classified before? Okay, all right, Jebel. Right, so the Jebel Irhoud fossils were initially classified as Neanderthals or an African Neanderthal variants because, right, it looked black, but it was actually an ape. So, you know, so let's get back to it. So yeah, they rely on the Jebel Irhoud because this fossil is pretty much the only fossil that they scientifically found in the continent of Africa that looks or resembles a Homo sapien. However, through science, most fossils that relate to so-called humans are usually going to be categorized as Homo neanderthalis, Homo erectus, Homo australopithecus. They're all classified into apes, right? So what I'm saying is they don't really have evidence of Homo sapien fossils in Africa because apes are found. They keep finding apes, right? So but what it is, one of the earliest Homo sapien fossils that were found in Africa were basically populations that were found in North and East Africa, like the like the Moors, Morocco, Mauritania, Tunisia, like those areas. So I theorize that they make the Jebel Irhoud, sounds like Jezebel, but they make it look like a black person because the Moors were there, or the Moabites were there, the black Muslims, and they had white slaves, and so but basically all the oldest so-called human fossils in Africa are all categorized back to apes. So if I ask, what is the oldest human fossil in the world? It's gonna say Jebel Irhoud in Morocco. Then they say Kenya, and it's not showing it. Where do all modern humans trace their DNA back to? It's gonna say back to Africa, right? So mitochondria Eve. What DNA in Africa do all humans trace back to? Mitochondria Eve and a Y chromosomal atom. Right, so it's not explaining the fossil, but we'll go to Wikipedia, see what they're talking about, if you can find it. Okay, we'll just do this. What is the oldest fossil in the world? Okay, right. All right, they're not really saying it, so I'm just gonna type it. So, you got Lucy, right? So a lot of people, they like to theorize Lucy as the first human. However, when you look at it, it's an ape. It's not a human. It's an ape. Okay. So, and then the other fossil they like to go by is the Jebel Irhoud. But the Jebel Irhoud used to be classified as Neanderthal. Okay? I don't care if they said that there were other lineages. They classified it as a Neanderthal. So the Jebel Irhoud is not talking about all humans. It's only talking about a certain amount. Now let's get back to the what is a Neanderthal? So when early modern humans moved into areas where Neanderthals lived, the two groups mated. So we know this is not talking about us or people, with afros, because what's actually trying to say is that when Neanderthals went into areas where humans were already at, that's when the 2%, right? So we're gonna do the Moors and Wildmen, right? So you got the Moors and the Wildmen, right? So you got person with hair all over their body. Then you got the Moors. Where the Moors at? The Moors of Europe, right? So Neanderthals went and met Homo sapiens, even though we're not Homo sapiens, we're people of man, right? And then, right, we're gonna scroll down. So African Neanderthals were first found in 1960 in Morocco. Remember, I believe they're talking about the Moabites and the Muslim caliphates, the Moors, right? They're not talking about actual Neanderthals. So what it was, there's fossils of non-Negro people they found, and they're calling them Neanderthal, but they're just non-black people. And the Moors, when they had the slaves, white slaves, they mixed in with their slaves and died there. And so archaic Homo sapiens, pre-sapiens, right? That is just later now it's just considered them an intermediate or archaic human group or an earlier branch that diverged or interbred. Like I said, there were Moors there, right? Moroccans, Moors. Younger estimates, early dating methods mistakenly placed the fossils at roughly 40,000 years old, aligning them incorrectly with later periods of human prehistory. Well, I'm telling you, so when you want to go past 10,000 years in history, right? You have to look in Genesis 1. This is where you're talking about your 50,000, 100,000. That ain't dealing with us. Us is Genesis 2:7, which is about roughly 1,000 to 3,000 years ago, right? All right, get back to it. So, what I'm saying is, this is not the the early classification of Homo sapien or man. This is just a theory because there were Moors in the area enslaving them, and Now let's get to the Neander Valley thing. So the word Neanderthal, right, comes from the Neander Valley, right? So we're gonna learn about bones in Europe, right? And yeah. So but when it's referring to the Neander Valley, it's just talking about non-Europeans in the area. Of what I showed you who the European was. You got the European right here, and oh my gosh, you got the European. This is a European, and this is a non-European. That's an invader. That is an invader. All right. Now, let's get back to right? Okay, now I think we can move on now. So, this what happens when you go by human instead of man. So, and we already learned that apes come from Africa, and ape is the ancestor of the so-called human, not man. Now, when you type, what is it? Yeah, oldest human fossil in the world. Oh my gosh. Oldest human fossil in the world. It goes back to the Jebel Irhoud, right? And also the Jebel Irhoud, right? However, when you look at it, like I said before, it's showing an ape. It's showing an ape or a black person in a caveman state. Okay? And the reason this is important is because when you get into like all the castles and monuments and architecture that was created in Europe and Asia, right? They're gonna say people who mixed with Neanderthals created it. After the mixing of Neanderthals, that's when human civilization started. So what I'm saying is, when you say you're a Homo sapien or human, you're saying you're going back to Africa, and that you're a caveman in the jungle. But when you go by the word man, right? Let's go to this one. The word man. Watch this. We'll do Control F. I don't know if they're gonna give it to me. Man. Alright. So first one says Kenya, but we keep going. But look. Now we have to just go down. Alright. So we're going to the first one. Alright. So we're gonna do Yuan Mu Man. Found in China. Right? We're just gonna go to open link. Alright. Now we're gonna type classified as. Okay. Well, now we're gonna do what tribe relates to the One More Man. Right. So they can't really find anything. But that's okay. We'll just keep going. But I'm just trying to tell you, when you look at the word man, it's going back to Asia, right? And then we'll go to the next one. The Latinian man. To go that word man goes back to what? China. Alright. We're going to go to the next one. The Pekin man goes back to China. Java man goes back to Indonesia. Who cares if it's classified as a Homo erectus? It's all about that word man being there. So now we're gonna copy and paste this. We'll actually search what tribes relate to it. Right? So there's no. We'll do what indigenous tribes relate to it. So you can't do this one. It doesn't really say anything. But we're gonna keep going. The Peking man, go back to China. Search this one. What tribes relate to it? It says no tribes, right? So it says Peking man does not relate to any modern human tribes or ethnic groups because it belonged to an extinct archaic human group, Homo erectus, that lived 700,000, 200,000 years ago. Modern science shows that all living humans belong to the Homo sapiens, or the man, right? Which evolved in Africa and later spread across the world. So they don't, they really don't know. But it's saying it's going back to China, right? Now we're gonna do the Nahin man, right? It's gonna probably say the same thing. Then we got the Box Grove man, right? You see how they make it look like a black person or Afro, a Negro. Make his hair curly. This kind of looks like Dick Gregory a little bit. Alright, so Dick Gregory kind of looks like him a little bit. So, classified as, okay. Right? Now we're going to do, there's another one in France, the Arago. Right? Reconstruction. Can we get reconstruction? Let's see what they show. This kind of looks like an Aita man, a little bit. A Negrito. What's next? We got a Cipriano man in Italy. This one looks like, a man with dreadlocks. Right, so. Keep going. Then we got the Hexia man. I'm just saying that when you keep seeing the word man, it's going back to Asia and Europe. And now remember, Europe used to be Asia. Okay, it's the same Eurasia, right? Swan's comb, right? Let's keep going down. Dragon man, right? Dolly man, China. Gali man in Israel. It's all going back to Asia. Italy, Altamora. Sounds like more. Maba man. Okay, here's the first one. Kalalo man. Now, before we look up Kalalo, I want to show you something. Alright. Just type inside here. Okay. Who is indigenous to Southeast Asia? Negritos, Austronesians, and Negroes, right? Negroes are indigenous. This is main Manique. Alright. Now, I know they say Negritos, right? Because there's a island called Negros Island in Philippines, but however, there's another one called Dos Negros Island in Papua New Guinea. So it's talking about Negro people. Okay, Negroes are indigenous to Southeast Asia. Now, the Kalalo man. This what happens when you don't go by the word human. Watch this. Right? Found in Philippines, right? The Homo luzoniensis, also known as the Galileo man, often called Ubag after mythical caveman, is extinct possible pygmy species of archaic human from the late Pleistocene of Luzon, the Philippines. All right. Now watch this. Now they'll show you, right, this image making it look like an ape, right? I told you anywhere we're found, they're gonna call us an ape, right? Now watch this. What tribes trace back to this fossil? Watch this. It might not show it, but watch this. Okay, obviously it's going to say this, right? No living or indigenous tribes trace their direct genetic lineage back to Caveman, Homo luzoniensis. Alright, extinct branch. Homo luzoniensis is an extinct separate species of archaic human that lived on Luzon Island in Philippines at least 50,000 to 134,000 years ago. No direct descendants. Genetic and anthropological evidence indicates that represent an evolutionary experiment in geographic isolation rather than direct ancestors to modern human populations or Pacific indigenous groups like the Aita, right? Modern indigenous people, contemporary tribes in Philippines, including the Negritos such as the Aita, are modern humans who arrived much later, right? So they're saying they came a little later than the Homo luzoniensis, right? Now if I try what tribes look like the fossil. Now, so when you ask what tribes trace back, it's gonna say no living tribes trace back to the Kalalo man, right? Man of the Bible, man Adam, right? No tribes trace. But then when you say, right, what tribe looks like the ape, right? Kalalo man shares physical traits with the small body indigenous people like the Aita and Negrito. Boom. With short stature, dark skin. There you go. There you go. That's who the Kalalo man is, the Negro. But yeah, this is who the Kalalo man is. The Negro. Okay? That's who it is. See what happens when you go by the word human instead of man? They take away your land, reduce you to a small number, and then call you an ape. Or you look like an ape. Right? And when you call yourself human, it goes back to Africa, where they still call you what? A caveman or ape. So, now let's go to the next one. Where is it? Remember, we are looking for the word man. Mungo man. Alright. So we're just going to take that off and put Mongo man. So before we go there, we're going to type Mongo man. And this one's found in Australia. Okay, we got to take that off. So they don't have a reconstruction of Mongo man. When you type it, it says Mongo man genetically and culturally belongs to indigenous Australian peoples of the Willandra region, specifically the Maputi, Nyangpa, and Pakitinja nations. Right? So when we go look at these people, guess what it shows us? Right? It shows us mixed black Dutch people. Mixed black Dutch people. And then we do the next one, Nagaya. Sounds like Negro, right? Or Naga, right? It's showing you Black Dutch people. Hold on. Right now they're intermingled, but they're Black Dutch. So let's go to the next one. Ust-Isham man in Russia. See how it's going back to Asia. Tinyawan man in China. Balangora man. Alright, we're gonna search this one. Who does it show? Right. Now we're gonna. Okay, we kind of messed up. Okay, so now we're gonna type. Was it belong? Hold up. Belangonda man. Right? They show fossils shared physical and genetic ties with the Veda people, also spelled Veda or Wana ala Aito. Right? So they look like them. Right? These are Hamites, but you know, could be mixed of Shem too. But that's what it looks like. But I actually want to keep some information. Let's keep this right quick for a later video. Let's go ahead and put that in the new window. Alright. Now this is classified as a Homo sapien, but it don't say man, so we're still gonna copy it. And then when we do, right, what tribes? It says the Wajak fossil looks most similar to indigenous populations, Austro-Melanesian Negroes, Australo Negroes, right? So we got that one. Remember, we can't really look at Europe because I told you the Russians are controlling the bones, so we can't really. Let's look at this fossil in China. All right. So the Luoyang band fossil shares the closest morphological and genetic cranial affinities with modern East Asian populations and indigenous Roman period of people of Japan. We already know that the Sengoku people. Let's type in Sengoku. Thank you to the subscriber who told me this. Sengoku. This is what a Sengoku is. A manga character. You see his afro? That's what a Sengoku is. Alright, so yeah. Then we got the Yamashita of Japan, man. Alright, so now we're gonna backspace that, put what tribes look like the fossil. Now watch this. It says the Yamashita Choman fossil represent a young girl roughly 32,000 years ago in Okinawa, closely resembles early modern human populations of the late Pleistocene East Asia and maritime Southeast Asia rather than a Pacific modern tribe, right? So, regional and ancestral affinities, East Asian linkages, morphology aligned with Pleistocene finds in China such as the Lijuan man and the Zhangkulian upper Caveman specimens. Southern migrations, anthropologists note similarities point out toward ancient ancestral roots shared with early Southeast Asian and Melanesian peoples rather than direct lineage to modern main so relation to Negroes, right? So we got a fossil that looks like it looks similar to people that are Negro. Now let's get to the next one. We'll do a few more. I mean, now I might do a few more China and Japan, but we're really gonna rely on the Southeast Asia one, right? So you got the Sangha in Russia. I still want to see what it says for this one. Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, it's not saying anything related to Negro until they get to the social structure. Research to their DNA demonstrates they lived in small bands, maintain wide mating networks akin to modern indigenous groups like Aboriginal Australians to prevent it. So now they're bringing up the Aboriginal Australian. We already know the Aboriginal Australians a mix of the Black Dutch and the Canaanite, some sort of Canaanite Hamitic group. All right, and I want to might as well do one in France too. All right. So, see, I told you when the Russians, when they control the bones, they can control what it says. All right, so we got the Aubry Protu woman in France. Okay, we got another one, the Minogawa in Japan. All right, what tribes? So we got the Austro-Melanesian, Jomon. Jomon is just the Sengoku people, Paleolithic Southeast Asian. That's the Negritos, Andamanese. So it's pretty much a Negro fossil, right? Next, the Tandu. Okay, keep going. The Tabon skull cap. Let's look that one up too. All right, was type what? Take the one out. What tribes look like the fossil? The Anu people, Japheth, right? Then got it down to saying Aboriginal Australians. Okay, so now we're going to do. Oh yeah, they got the Cotius in Georgia. Let's see what this. I'm trying to see what this says. It's a long video, but I'm just trying to prove to you. This is what happens when you don't follow the Most High. You get called a human instead of a man, right? Which is from Asia. So the Cotius, indigenous caucus groups, the Yamnaya, Southeast Asian populations, major Indian populations, and what color Indians, darker skin. So they're not even white people. Like that, basically, this is saying they're not white people, right? Now we're gonna go down. Remember, now we're really focused on Southeast Asian now. That's where the Negroes from, but we'll do this one too. Oh my gosh. Okay. Doesn't want to talk about. Okay. All right. Let's stop making this video so long. Okay. Southeast Asia only. Okay, we got the Bezi in Sulawesi, Indonesia. Right. Said Bessie shares the close genetic ties with indigenous Australian, Black Dutch, and Papuan Negro people. Negros Island, right? Los Negros Island, to be where he's at. Alright. Keep going. And that's it. There's more fossils, but yeah. I just proved to you that all these fossils that have the word man in it go back to a Negro or a Negrito or Andamanese or a darker skinned Hindu. It goes back to Negroes. Alright? So, because we went away from the Most High, when you call yourself a human, you're calling yourself an ape or a black person in a caveman state. Remember, Negroes were created by the Most High. I mean, everything was created, but I'm saying that was the first man, a Negro. And the Negro had his own lands. He had castles. He had, he was of royalty. He had civilizations, temples. And then when he went away, or when they went away, they became a human, a caveman. That came from what? Africa, a land that's not the Negro. Right? And here's the last one. Where do all humans come from? Africa, right? And what's the oldest human fossil? What is the oldest human fossil in Africa? It's gonna say multiple things, right? And they're all classified. Are all Homo species classified as ape or primate? Yep. So yeah, both. An ape, right? Now they say basically all come from Africa, and let me prove to you that apes don't only come from freaking Africa. Where do orangutans come from? Borneo in Sumatra, Southeast Asia. Where do apes come from? Okay, now they want to say Africa, but watch this. Okay, migration. Land bridges allowed early apes to spread into Europe. Okay, whatever. Types of apes. Okay, here we go. Where do chimpanzees come from? Okay, now for some reason it's gonna keep.
Chimpanzees are native to the forests and savannas of Equatorial.
All right. So this not gonna work. Here's what we're gonna do. Keep saying Africa. Now we gotta go back to the Bible. So we're gonna go to Book of Kings, right? We're gonna type 8. Book of Kings. Okay, it's not gonna say it. Book of Kings. It's not gonna say. Oh man. Let me go to Ivry. Okay. Should be in the Book of Kings. There it is. So you're gonna go to translation. All right, read the verse. 1 Kings 10:22. For the king had a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Haram. Once in the 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold, silver, and ivory, and apes. All right, what are apes? What is an ape? A monkey, a kofe, a cope. Now we're gonna do two things, right? We're gonna type kof. All right, let's see what it says. A cope. Now we're gonna type Asia. Cope, right? A copio is a gown. Okay. Now we're gonna type coffee. Well, let's do it like this. English to Japanese. I just want to see what it says. Monkey. Let's type monkey. A seru. What about an ape? A Russian. All right, let's do China. Let's see what China says. Yuan. Obsidiana. Blue Korean. One song. It's not gonna show it. Okay. Yeah, that's it for the video. But yeah, when you call yourself a human, you took away your own heritage. You came from Asia. Orangutans come from Asia. Alright?